Thank you very much, Naomi. Thank you for sharing with us your own personal family history, and that you also have been touched by genocide personally as well as through your work, and sharing with us your thoughts on the early warning signs that should be taken seriously to plan for the worst and hope for the best. Now, to close, I would like to return to Kak Yerivan. Kak Yerivan, as you heard, is a native of Halabja. And he represents the people of Halabja for us today at this commemoration. They are the people that Saddam wanted to annihilate. But not only did Yerivan survive, today he has a family of his own. He lives, I believe, in Virginia, and is a correspondent for one of the major news organizations in Kurdistan. I see Kak Yerivan as a testimony to Kurdish resilience and hope. Please, Kak Yerivan.
Thank you, Bear. So I am trying to present some good, this time, experience of Halabja, but I just forgot that, in March 16, 1988, I lost my grandfather, and also my father lost, his aunties and over, 24 of his cousins. And also, we actually received today a news that my father's uncle, who buried 4 of his kids on March 16, 1998, he also died today. So we returned to Halabja in 1991, and the Iraqi army was not just using the chemical attack to kill people, but it was so brutal. When we went back to Halabja, there was, you could hardly see a house, standing. The whole town was razed to the ground. And my father was a teacher by profession, but he had only, he was allowed only to practice that only for a few years of his time. But when we went back to Halabja, the first thing he did, he returned and volunteered to teach the children of Halabja, and I myself was one of them. So many foreigner journalists were, poured into Halabja, and they were trying to find out what is, going on. And at that time, I was so frustrated, I was not able to communicate and tell them, everything in English. So I and some other friends embarked into an almost impossible mission by teaching ourselves English. And our tools was, listening to the BBC World Service, and also a dictionary that a friend of my uncle brought it for me from Iran on December 8th, 1998. Probably that was, one of the best days of my life, that, after many years, I was able to get a dictionary. So I graduated from high school in 2000, and then finished the community college. I was trained as a teacher as well, where I met my wife, who she's here. And after 2 years, I believe, we got married. Now we have 2 kids. My daughter is 8 years old, and my son is 4 years old. And then, I worked as a translator. I've never spoken in English in my whole life. So in 2003, when many journalists were coming to Iraqi Kurdistan trying to cover the second Gulf War, a friend of mine, came to me and said, you always claim to speak English. Why don't you go to that, hotel, Suleimani Palace? Probably there are many journalists. Probably you can get a job. So I went there, and a journalist came in, and there was a coordinator who was finding translators for the journalist, and we were sitting there with 2 other actually engineers, and she came and said, who is a translator? The other 2 engineers had no courage to say we're a translator, because they were not sure if they could speak real good English. I said I speak English, and then introduced me to Luke Harding. Probably you have heard of him, that we worked several months together covering the second Gulf War. And he said actually that I returned from England because my English was so British because of listening to the BBC World Service. And then after that, I ended up working even for BBC that I was listening for many years, and working for the New York Times, NPR, and built my career as a translator, and then smooth transitions into journalism and the world of world affairs, especially Middle Eastern affairs analysis. So in 2007, I was searching online to get scholarship because I was always wanted to study politics and the international affairs, given my background. So I found a scholarship online and I applied. Amazingly, I was one of the 7 students across Iraq that was selected for that special program. It was by the International Institute of Education, which was sponsored by Exxon Mobil. And I finished my undergrad at the University of Texas, Austin, in 2009. And then I returned to Kurdistan. Then, I really wanted, more education. So in 2011, I came back and I was admitted to the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy in Tufts University in Medford and Boston. That's where I and my wife always miss Boston and call it our really second home. And last year, I went back to Halabja. So again, the background that I talked about, that we were not allowed to go to school, and what I found out was really great, and I am very proud of. Halabja now is a home for over 100 Arab families, including from the city, the hometown of Saddam Hussein, Tikrit, where we have been able to open 2 schools for the refugee children, so that they will learn in their own native Arabic language. And we really think that diversity makes us stronger, and also we really don't want, and this speaks to itself, that the people of Halabja are not just defined by tragedy, by anger or resentment, but by kindness, love, and hope for future. And also we are really not taken hostage by our past history. We do not forget, but we can forgive. But also we are really driven by the passion that we can provide the best for everyone, regardless of their religious and sectarian or ethnic backgrounds. And I am saying this I want to emphasize that this is not a favor we are doing. This is our responsibility and duty as human beings for others who are in need. Thank you all very much.
Well, thank you very much, Kaki Erivan, for ending on a very uplifting note. I would also like to thank you for reminding us that Halabja isn't, as you said, held hostage by its history. It is also a thriving town, and it has a good and I hope brighter future to look forward to. So we are now coming to a close. We've run out of time because we had to start late because of the late arrivals due to the metro system today. So thank you all very much. First and foremost, I would like to thank our hosts, Sasha Toprich and the Center for Transatlantic Relations. And I'd like to thank all of our speakers for joining us today and sharing with us their thoughts. Thank you to all of you, our honored guests, for being with us today and sharing with us this very, very important Memorial Day. Thank you.